This is the 2021 Bajaj Dominar 400 and I call this the Dominator because Arnie is one of my idols, and number two, this machine decimates the distances like no one else's business. And why am I so confident about it? Because I was one of the very few riders who went on one of the 6 Odysseys done to test the mettle of this machine around the world. Well, to be exact, 144,000 kilometers over 67 countries and 5 continents across 6 Odysseys. The Odyssey that I did was called the Bajaj Dominar Great Asian Odyssey, and it started from Delhi in late 2019 and finished after 15,000 kilometers and 11 countries in January 2020, just before the coronavirus pandemic changed the world as we know it. The ride saw me start from New Delhi and head to Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, and finally to the tip of Singapore. From there we head towards Sri Lanka to mark the end of the Odyssey at Talai Mannar, which is just 36 kilometers from the sea, from Dhanushkodi in India. After riding big adventure motorcycles over almost a decade, all over the world, and sometimes even racing tracks too, I wanted to do the ASEAN route, Delhi to Singapore. But I wanted to do it on an Indian motorcycle, and I was looking for something which is peppy, light and flickable, and would suit my style of riding. Any motorcycle can tour long distances, regardless of the cubic capacity. But for sure, I wanted something that I could also have fun with without worrying it to be too heavy or lacking power. Enter the Bajaj Dominar 400, the first upgrade in 2019 with its tried and tested 370cc engine, which was Luggage cooled, pumping out 40 horsepower, and just the right kind of aesthetics seemed to fit the bill. Personally, it was a huge step for me to shift from a sub 100 horsepower machine to the Dominar 400. After what seemed eons. Will it give the same touring experience? But something at the back of my mind said that it won't disappoint. There were a lot of preparations to get it touring ready, and I had to hunt for a lot of aftermarket accessories, which was a little challenging. But at the end, I was extremely happy on how we actually got the 2019 Dominar 400 ready for the journey ahead. Fast forward to 2021, when I saw the new Dominar 400, it did bring a lot of memories from that ride. And it made me say, aha, they actually took some of the accessories and made it stock. These guys are getting even more serious about it. So let me now take you through some of the movements from the Bajaj Dominar Great Asian Odyssey and tell you about the accessories in the new Dominar 400. Let me start with the windscreen. So this can really change the experience of riding a motorcycle, from the very involving wind blast in your face to being in a complete wind protection bubble. Our 2019 stock Odyssey Dominar 400 had what can be best called as a fly screen. We thought of the dust, the rain and the cold and the wind blast that we have to be shielded from. A taller windscreen was a no-brainer. It also protected the equipment mounted on the handlebar and also gave the bike a bit more purposeful look. I'm happy to see that stock windscreen on the new Dominar 2021 here, which looks even more thoughtfully designed. In fact, there were many instances where it was both cold and raining, especially in central Vietnam during the Odyssey, where we literally thanked the windscreen for being there. Along with this, there were endless highways where we cruised at speeds of over 120 kilometers an hour, relatively effortlessly, thanks to the windscreen and of course, the power of the Dominar. So now let's talk about the handguard, which is sort of an extension of the windscreen. We had to get it for our Dominar 400s in 2019 before our Odyssey because it plays a bit more role than just protecting our hands from wind blasts. In case of a fall or a crash, it can play a crucial role, not only protecting your hands from otherwise serious injury, but also protect the hand-actuated levers from breaking or chipping in the middle of nowhere. Plus, of course, it will protect a million bugs from going kamikaze on your gloves every sunset, especially if they're white. The 2021 Dominar has some tastefully designed handguards, which look more like winglets, and I really like that. Well, an incident that happened right in front of me on the Odyssey was in Myanmar, where Deepak Gupta was riding just ahead of me on his Dominar 400. And then when he was overtaking a truck, all of a sudden, a buffalo or a cow, it actually came in front of him and he took a hit. But thankfully, because of the handguards, the levers and his hands were relatively unscathed. And that is what handguards can do. Another and primary application of this handguard is to protect your hands from the winter chill, and there were plenty of instances of that on the Odyssey. With one clear one in Bhutan, one we had to ride in the mountains at night with temperatures near freezing. So let's talk about the engine bash plate. This is a no-brainer if you want to do any sort of adventure motorcycling. Before the Odyssey, we used a basic metal plate to perform the duties, but in the new 2021 Dominar 400, it is a much more thoughtfully and beautifully executed combination of glass-filled, nylon and steel. This looks quite purposeful, and it of course works too. There was this instance that was perhaps one of the worst roads in the entire 15,000 kilometers journey in our Odyssey. While crossing over from Thailand to Myanmar, the road was extremely bad with huge potholes and fine dust, which was bottoming out the suspension, often leading us to hit stones on the road. I'm sure if there was no metal plate, then the exhaust pipes and the sump would have definitely got damaged. The USB charging port is an extremely important accessory to have in today's record everything age. And since I was about to make vlogs for a change, it was imperative to have batteries and phones as well as charged, since we were going to heavily rely on navigating using it. A USB port might sound a simple thing, but if not done properly, it can render a bike's battery or even its electrical system useless over a longer period of time. And while going across countries, we can definitely not afford that. We did get our own system installed, but it was nowhere as pretty as the 2021 Bajaj Dominar's stock system. I just wish that there were two ports in the same place, or maybe one more under the seat to charge action cameras on the go. Over a period of 15,000 kilometers, one of us were bound to have a fall, big or small, at some point. It is of course not mandatory, but one can't be careful enough. We even got the boxes protected with tube bars, and there was a leg guard too. In this instance that you see here, Sunil Gupta, my co-rider, fell at almost standstill. However, the leg guards prevented any serious damage from happening to the motorcycle or the rider. The new leg guard in the 2021 Bajaj Dominar does protect the radiator as well, and it also is quite aesthetically designed. For my Odyssey, we had used a ram bar mounting solution, which was not exact idea that we had in our mind. The place to mount was a little difficult to find because of all the switch gear, but it was also a problem of getting used to the wind buffeting, and it also used to block the speedometer. However, that was the single most important accessory for us because it enabled us to mount the phone that helped us to navigate or even make quick calls to reconnect with other riders from the roadside. 2021 Bajaj Dominar has taken this a bit further by providing a neatly tucked in solution for mounting the same ram mount or any other option over the speedometer and comfortably cocoon it from the elements by the virtue of the windscreen. Now let's talk a little bit about luggage. Our Odyssey Dominar was decked up with a top case and side cases over custom mounts. We had also got tubes around the boxes, so in case of a fall, they will further absorb the impact. They also serve to further secure the boxes because the boxes could not be taken out. So we used to keep all our stuff in a plastic bag inside these lockable boxes for easy access overnight. Plus it gave the whole bike a more purposeful look. Of course, it was functional too. However, many of you will not want to go that route and will be happy to put soft side panniers. And this is where the two accessories in the new 2021 Bajaj Dominar come into play. So the rear carrier here also has a back stopper which also aids pillion comfort on long distances. However, on the Odyssey we had a tank bag on the rear seat for additional space. One thing which you don't see here is the side saddle stay, which is an optional accessory which you can get. All these accessories except the USB port can be retrofitted in the older Dominar 400. So we had done a lot more on our Odyssey Dominar 400s, from auxiliary fuel tanks to headlight guards and more. However, the stock Dominar 2021 400 has become an even more potent tourer with that gem of an engine, which surprised me, a guy who was riding only high-power motorcycles for a long time. The Dominar 400 is perhaps the most fun per lakh of money you spend. Heartening to see a motorcycle company taking small but firm steps in creating a quality touring motorcycle. The great news for existing Dominar customers is that all these accessories except the USB port can be retrofitted in the outgoing Dominar 400 as well. So right now I'm on the Bajaj Dominar 400 2021 and this feels absolutely surreal. You know why? Because I was wearing the exact same helmet and riding gear on my ride from Delhi to Singapore on the Bajaj Dominar 2019. It brings back so many memories. And talking about this motorcycle, it has become even better because all these accessories which you see here, like I said, have been inspired by the Odysseys, and one of the Odysseys that I did was of course from Delhi to Singapore, and it just feels great that the companies are ready to listen, they are ready to make products even better and even more purposeful. It's a little heavier than before because of the touring accessories, like around 6 kgs, but I think that it gives you more confidence to buy a motorcycle from a company that you know that is serious about touring. Of course, there is a lot of scope for additional accessories, and for me, a pair of auxiliary lights and a set of hard cases would have made this an even sweeter deal. Maybe the next logical step for Bajaj will be to create an array of aftermarket accessories which you can buy after buying the new Dominar 400. I will be starting a series of more than 40 episodes soon on the ex-BHP Dominar Great Asian Odyssey on my YouTube and my Instagram. Do keep an eye on it. Ride safe, ride hard.